Hi, and welcome to Asteria's Convos, where we are community, building the future. I'm your host, Asteria LZ, hosting from land currently known as Los Angeles that has been tended for thousands of years by the Tongva and Chumash peoples. I owe everything I am to lands in the traditional territories of the Sauk and Fox nations. I acknowledge these ancestral tenders as a truth practice and reminder of the violence in our shared history, which has privileged myself and my farmer ancestors. Other identities I lead with are white, gender non-conforming, bisexual, and polyamorous. I'm newly discovered neurodivergent. I have CPTSD, severe generalized anxiety, and am chronically ill with Ehlers-Danlos. I've trained in connection and community building with Desiree Attaway, Beautiful You Coaching Academy, and in Carmen Spaniola's attachment-based, trauma-informed facilitation method. I have a work history in special events and as a stagehand. Plus, I'm a certified data analyst and practicing witch. I hope to explore all these topics and more on Asteria's Convos. So here we go! Thanks for tuning in to Asteria's
Hi, and
Convos.
welcome to
You can find the
Asteria's
links for this
Convo,
episode
where
in
we're
the episode
community
description.
building
You
the
can find
future.
me, Asteria LZ, on
Today's
TikTok, Instagram, and Threads,
is going to introduce herself. Who
and
are you, your
Threads
name and
as at
pronouns, what
asteria.lz,
identities do you lead
and on
with,
Blue
and
Sky
I'm just
as
going to light a little
at
candle for
Asteria
us
LZ.
as you
Spell it
introduce yourself.
Asteria
Wow. I'm
dot
so happy to be here.
ELZ.
I'm happy to have you.
Please leave a review
So,
on your favorite
Marisa,
podcast
my name
hosting
is Marisa
service.
Sullivan.
That's the
I use
absolute best way
she,
for our
her
community to grow.
pronouns.
Remember, your
And
actions
my
create the future.
identities I
All my
lead
love,
with.
Asteria
I really
LZ.
identify as a woman,
Mhm.
and with a womb and a vulva and that, and as very, woman. I'm a mother. Now I am a mother of what the really weird language we have, an empty nester. My daughter has gone off to college, and so I'm mothering at a distance and come back into the nest. And a New Yorker.
Yeah.
I've been in the city a long time, and it's scary the moments when I become a New Yorker and like, get out of my way, and that side of that I don't like. I have it. I'm starting to identify as an elder.
Sure.
I'm 60, so I'm definitely moving into an elderhood. And I am white, and I'm aware of that identity. I don't lead with it. I pay attention to it. And I'm single. I've been single for some time. So there's a real deep single alone
Identity
that I don't necessarily want to keep as an identity, but it's really in me right now.
Sure.
And I'm queer, and my queerness is really in a big transforming place right now. It's very important. I'm really shifting with it. I've always been pansexual, which is like this old term, maybe, but I never thought bisexual. I just like people, and now I can't deal with men, and I'm really just trying to really notice that heteronormative pattern in me that is like the well-worn path, and it's easier, and I'm just, no, not that right now.
Yeah.
Here.
I identify as bisexual, and meaning that I like my gender and other genders. And I have since I was 14, but also I do find that it's so much easier to just follow the well-worn heteronormative path. And like, while I'm poly, I'm still dating or married to or whatever, 3 men. So it's easy.
Yeah.
I have questions about what it's like to start to identify as an elder.
Yeah. I definitely, in the pandemic, I let my hair gray. I used to
Yeah,
dye it, and
it's beautiful.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love it. And that was a big shift
Mhm.
to say, okay, this is the truth here. I'm gonna wear the truth. And I am older. I'm 60. It's more years. I'm here. I've been doing things for a long time, longer time. And I mostly hang out with people younger than myself.
Mhm.
I'm mostly with people in their 30s, I'd say, is a bulk of my friends these days. And then I do
Like
have,
me.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and just starting to notice it. We were talking one time. Sometimes I do feel overlooked and people aren't looking at me in the same way.
Yeah.
It's starting to happen, that kind of skip over.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it just this awareness of, oh yeah, I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot. I have some wisdom just through time. Not bigger or better, just
Just the time.
yeah, time. And there's some ease. Some of the personal trauma gets a little lighter.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your work in the world, Marisa?
I work in the world. I, I just did a pelvic steam just this morning. So I am a steam practitioner. I do
Hmm.
pelvic steam with people and womb care. And I work with the intersection of sexual health and sexual pleasure. So I'm really looking at pleasure, but it is so often directly connected to sexual health. I've been
Yeah,
yeah, very
absolutely.
interested, yeah, in the womb journey, menstruation, fertility, postpartum, the choice to mother or not mother, or how we mother in the world, or how we parent in the world, how we caregive, what happens with the womb. And I also love movement. An artist. I was a performance artist. And so there's a lot of creativity. I have a lot of theater background. So when I do healing with Reiki, sexual empowerment counseling, and also movement, I teach just movement for health, mostly to people with illness. So those are all the work I do.
That's great work. Do you do work on the womb care with trans women as well? On the pelvic?
I have worked with trans men.
Okay. On
I
womb care.
on womb care. So I have had, yes. So I haven't worked with trans women ever, and
Hmm.
I've never worked with any bottom bottom surgical transition. I have worked with people with top transition,
Hmm.
with some scar tissue stuff, and I've definitely worked with trans men with fibroids. And yeah,
Yeah, that's what a huge thing to work on there
yeah,
with the fibroids and I would imagine there's trauma that goes into it, if I was guessing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and often then I think we didn't steam together, so some privacy. And I mean, gosh,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I have a womb. Do I want a womb? Yeah, so much
So
trauma,
many questions.
so many questions. And then when the womb is so many wombs, I mean, what is it? Endometriosis is 1 in 10 people with a womb. It's very high. We're carrying some serious womb trauma, all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely am. I've got pelvic floor disorder, and we know that's womb trauma being held as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And between the musculature and all the trauma of holding in those muscles, and then the womb that we don't. I mean, the thing about steaming is it's a medicine that we've mostly lost, that
Hmm.
we really had, that was kind of just like something you did at your friend's house, probably something you did at your cousin and your auntie's house. And we it was just it was part of life that we would use herbs to steam up into the womb to keep the menstruation healthy, which would also be keeping all the musculature relaxed and mobile, and just awareness. And then there was this really devastating, toxic takeover of womb medicine, patriarchal takeover. And luckily, we still have threads of the medicine. Yeah, but if we look at gynecological care and the horrific roots of it, that it's purely a surgical system. And there's
Hmm.
some hope, there's some holistic gynecology going on, but we
Yeah.
really tragically we don't have womb medicine as a general thing.
Right. We're definitely moving as a Western world. Like as a Western world, we had kind of closed off to a lot of old-timey medicine. And I think we're opening up again. Maybe it's searching for those threads for our history, for our ancestry around care, for the thousands of years of knowledge that women had that we've cut off in the last couple hundred years.
Yep.
Oh. So, how are you building community in your life, Marisa?
I am. When you said, I thought about this, so I think one thing I want to do is like track a little bit in the past.
Sure.
Because I was thinking about it in terms of the past, so when I was an artist making theater, you had this instant community. I was just always making new friends, and they were weaving into my life, and you
Hmm.
had this making theater, you're living, breathing together. So I had that period of my life. And then when I really was a yoga teacher and a yoga practitioner for many couple of decades, like my community was in the yoga center
Yeah.
or spiritual center. And then I had my daughter, and there's a lot of hard stuff in those communities. I experienced a lot of harm in those communities. And then when I had my daughter, there was this like organic thing of being a parent, being a mother, and making community and all along the ages. And one of my favorite times was elementary school and the pickup and the drop off. Like you saw everybody. And I had this really wild story of I was I was working part time. I was a low income, very, let's say low income mother. And
Yeah.
I was always looking for help. And
Hmm.
so I'd make friends with these mothers. I'd be like, hey, on Wednesdays, could your babysitter pick up my daughter too? And they'd look at me like I had three heads.
Wow.
They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, our kids are friends. So they'll have a better afternoon and I'll give your babysitter more money. Your babysitter will make more money. Her day will be easier actually because the kids will be playing.
Right.
And yeah. And so I was making community out of necessity and through my daughter, and they were like furrowed brows and like, okay, sure.
But they did adjust to it, right?
They did
It
it.
sounds like, yeah.
They did it, but it was like a struggle. I was aware that I was doing this thing of community building out of need and community care. Community care wasn't apparent often. And then they would give in and we would do it. But I did
Yeah.
make beautiful friends all those school years.
That's so interesting to me. And I don't know if my story is unique because I've had a unique childhood, but like I was picked up by friends most of the time. I would go home with friends' parents and stuff. And
Yeah.
like, but I grew up low income. My parents worked at the axle factory and like worked nights. So to have somebody, they could sleep longer, if somebody else picked me up, or my dad would pick me up so my stepmom could sleep more and he would like take me out to do stuff so I wasn't bothering her. And yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And this is, yeah, New York City in kind of an affluent. There's a lot of affluent people in this neighborhood, and they work full time and they have full time daycare. A lot of people did.
hmm.
So it really shift. It depends, right? It's that whole childcare thing is going to shift on class and income.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so I was just thinking about those times and how
Mhm.
easy. And then there was, beautiful, easy mothering community. community, parenting community, like fantastic stuff. So then, there was a big loss in the pandemic, like major. Like I'm still recovering from the
Oh,
pandemic
yeah.
community breakdown. So many people moved away. There was a center here. So where I am now, it's painful. I wish it's painful building community, and it feels like these little threads that are a little bit separate. There's not a lot of interweave, and I keep
Mhm.
working on. I'm constantly working on it.
Yeah.
Often against a grain sometimes if it's a capitalistic community and like a healing community of healing practitioners, and I'm trying to build community, and everybody's like, they're like fur on the back of their neck starts going up, and they're like, "What are you doing?" It's very weird. Like we're in competition. Like no, like can't we be community? Like
Yeah.
don't you?
We're not in competition. We could work together and then we would have more resources,
Yeah, it's
better use of our resources.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not easy, and so then the communities that are easier are queer community where I have it.
Hmm.
Numinous Network, where we met,
Yeah.
is honoring disability and community care. And I am deeply rooted in my community of my immediate family, my nuclear family, and partly because it's weird, like because there's a lot of illness and death approaching with that I'm more drawn to building community with my nuclear family at this time. So they're a big part of, like my main structures these days. My dad and mom and my brother and his partner and wife and their 2 kids.
Yeah.
So, and the community garden that I was just about to like, oh yeah, this is really where I'm going to branch out. It closed. The
Oh,
queer bar.
no.
Yeah, it
The
just
queer
closed.
bar closed too?
And the queer bar closed. Tonight is the last night.
Oh,
So I am having these like, here I'm going and here I'm stepping forward in community and it's closing.
yeah.
And I'm trying, I'm,
How
I'm
does
trying.
that feel to you? Like the places you're trying are closing.
Devastating. Because they're
Devastating.
really like, it takes me a little while to find them and be like, this is it. This is the flavor. This is the place.
Right.
This is where I'm going to learn. There was this garden. It was a hydroponic garden.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And they were connected to a compost place and there's a bunch of communities there. And it's so many things about it that I was like, okay, this is the place where I'm going to learn how to garden. I'm going to make friends. I'm going to be involved. And it just was against the grain. They don't, capitalism coming in. Luckily, the compost place has a way to stay there because that is where I do my composting now. The queer bar, the place that bought it, says they're going to keep it queer. And we're just like, let's see. We don't think so. When it comes to capitalism, we don't know. Because it was
Yeah.
it was mainly women and trans.
People.
There's a gay men's bar in the neighborhood, more focused on men. And that is quite thriving. This was a very different place. It's called Mary's, an Irish pub. It was adorable.
And what made it different?
I think that it was women focused.
Yeah.
It was women and trans focused. And there were men there. There were definitely queer men there. But it was stated in its, when you look it up, that it was lesbian and trans. And I went there for Irish dance class.
Oh, that's a fun thing to do at a bar.
It was so freaking fun. It
Yeah.
was freaking fun. And yeah, you get to hold people's hands and you go under the arches. And I was like giddy and ecstatic that I was doing like ancestral lineage stuff and being queer at the same time.
Oh, that feels so good to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you looking towards the future with your actions?
My composting.
Yes. It's wild. It's wild that you're able to compost in New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the city for, it goes up and down. Like you have the buildings are doing it, but you have to have an outdoor space. No, the city takes it away. Oh, the farmers markets are doing it. No, the city takes away the grant. And now I have this place that is funded and connected deeply. It's a very interesting place where I compost regularly. And, it's one of these goofy things where you're taking your compost and you feel like I'm doing this little tiny thing for the planet. Does it really matter? The guy who works there, he says, no, it really matters. He has all these. And I say hi to the people. It feels really good. So I'm composting. I'm raising a kid who I hope, I'm raising a beautiful kid into the future. She has a really beautiful heart. She definitely is very good at building community through friendships, and she's very caring. And on these days, sometimes when I think about the future, I also get really stuck. And I'm like, I don't even know if I have the strength and energy to keep going against everything. Like I have a lot of those moments these days.
Yeah. I hear that.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. There's a lot. Sometimes it feels like things are going backwards or just keep getting worse or whatever. And I guess I want to do this podcast as a reminder, and am doing this podcast as a reminder that there are other people looking towards the future with their actions too.
Yeah.
I've already recorded with somebody else who also sees composting as they're from LA and doing composting here in LA, and it's a huge part of what they're doing to look towards the future. And they have a 2-year-old. So taking her 2-year-old to compost and like, what's more looking towards the future than raising a kid?
Yeah. Right. I read that one thing. If you leave a garden, leave a healthy kid, leave a tree. So those simple things. But also the steaming that I would really like to be part of a movement that steaming is something that we all know about and that we all do. I'm constantly trying to figure out how to make it accessible. It's very hard to talk about and it's very kind of odd and weird. But a life where we all are steaming, a life where every person who bleeds really learns about menstrual health.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to. Yeah.
What do you want to tell us about steaming? What's weird and odd about it? Like, tell us more.
Well, like something like this, like,
yeah.
So when you bleed,
okay,
there is a healthy period, and we all from the get-go could be looking at having a healthy period. We could be all looking at the moon and trying to find that 28-day cycle. We could be looking at our blood and realizing that it is like your temperature or like the snot in your nose. It's a symbol of your health. And how is your blood? And healthy blood is bright pink red. Unhealthy blood is dark red or black, and it's old blood that didn't come out. Okay. And that should be like basic knowledge.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is at all.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So then, yeah.
How does old blood not come out?
All sorts of reasons, but basically it can just get like the pipes get, like a creek that the leaves start falling in and it gets all clogged up. Like sometimes it just gets all clogged up. One big thing too, like one of the things I've heard that one of the most basic things we could do to have a healthier period is stay in bed on the first day.
Oh.
Stay in bed. Just take
my body always wants to stay in bed on the first day. Yeah.
Stay in bed. Only drink hot liquids. Drink a lot. Only eat hot foods. Keep your body really warm. If that were something just that we just rested, then the blood would flow. So if we go out and push through, the blood's going to pull back. It's like, oh, we can't let go. We can't relax. We can't drop. We have to keep going. So we're kind of pulling it back up into the system, and then it gets all clogged and doesn't come through. Everybody should be able to use tampons, right? Sometimes we need them. We want to play sports. We want to do things, but really that could be terrible to have a tampon and you're actually not letting the blood come through sometimes. So
what about cups and discs? Is that like better or worse?
Yeah, it's better. It's lower.
Okay.
It's low. Yeah, it's definitely lower.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how does steaming work?
So the same way that herbal medicine works because we drink it. So that's ingesting the medicine. And instead, what you're doing is you're letting the medicine, so you're putting herbs into hot water, and then you're taking that hot water and it's going up into your mucous membrane. So you sit over basically a big pot of tea. And particular herbs will do particular things. There's like conditioning the skin, there's stimulating the uterus. The steam itself steam goes up. And the steam goes through the vulva, up the vagina, through the cervix, into the uterus, out the trumpeter tubes, to the ovaries. Like it goes the whole distance. As it hits mucous membrane, it's delivering medicine. And then the steam itself is just clearing the pipes the same way, like when you're really stuffy in the morning, you take a nice hot shower, all that mucus comes out. Yeah. So there's mucus inside the uterus and the mucus wants to move. If the mucus stays, then stuff can stay. If the mucus moves, then nothing can stay.
That makes a ton of sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. And does that connect back to people's trauma with stuff staying and stuff moving?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Stuff? Yeah.
And it's going up the butthole too. So it's also good for both bodies. It's good for the musculature, but it does a lot of that mucous membrane is also going up the butthole. It's very helpful for digestion. Yeah. So with trauma, like in Haiti, so, steaming was all over the world. It was in every continent. It existed. And then as colonization came and toxic patriarchy came, that medicine got taken away.
Okay.
But it stayed through IAD because IAD really fought colonization. And so it's really interesting.
Through Haiti?
Yeah.
So okay.
In Haiti, steaming is still huge.
Okay.
They never lost it. Which is interesting because they so fought colonization and
because they really, really, really fought colonization. Like right now we're in the age of Aquarius, and the last time we were in the age of Aquarius, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius astrologically was the American Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, and the French Revolution. So, yeah.
Yeah. So in rape crisis centers in IAT, the first thing they do is steaming.
Okay.
Because it smells nice. It feels good. So you're taking
relaxing.
You're taking that good sensation and you can be with the trauma, the difficult sensation and release it. And then you literally have this like pot of water that you just release into and you pour it out. And there is this like cleanse and releasing. So it can just release the imprint of trauma. It's helpful. It's a helpful way. So it's very good for trauma. I mean, just to like wash out a bad one night stand, release a relationship.
Yeah.
All those things steaming, it's great. I do want to name also the other places that held on to steaming, Korea, so a lot of people learned it from the Korean spas. And so that was a culture that really held it. And Suriname also is a culture that really held it. And then you'll see it trickle through, like through the Caribbean. A lot of people will say, oh yeah, my auntie does it. And she tells everybody not to tell anyone that she does it. It's like, and in Africa, actually, not Ethiopia. Sorry, I'm forgetting. But there's certain cultures in Africa, a couple that still also really held it. Yeah.
How often do you steam?
I try for once a month, and then if
Hmm.
something's going on more, so I'm beyond menstruation, I'm in postmenopausal, so I'm steaming for keeping the skin, keeping it lubricated, relaxation, tightness. It's helped. It helps so many things for me. So I'm looking at it once a month. I probably could do once a week. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And then if you're menstruating, it depends. So you would do it like at the end of your bleed, and then kind of pre-bleed.
Pre-bleed, but not while you're bleeding.
Right. You never do it while bleeding.
Why not?
Never. It's you just don't, it's going on. Mother Nature, you don't disrupt. So like also
Don't disrupt it. Okay.
don't disrupt. It's in its thing. So you're doing it, yeah, pre-bleed. If there's a little spotting, you can like right at the end, and maybe there's still a little spotting, but it's not really happening. And then you'd never do it while pregnant, but you can do it right before labor. And there's not a lot, but there's some science going on, especially in like Eastern Europe and
Hmm.
Poland and places. They're in hospitals using steaming right at the beginning of labor. And the outcomes of the labor are so improved. Relaxation,
Hmm.
ease, really good for breastfeeding, postpartum. And very much the biggest thing that also it was used for was postpartum for healing,
Okay.
pretty much right after birth.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. What are you here to promote besides steaming? Because we've done a lot of steaming promotions so far.
I know, I'm really like in the steaming place because I just did one, and also pleasure,
Mm.
pleasure. So I work with Betty Martin. Dr. Betty Martin has a book and this whole wheel of consent. So that's a big study that I do, constant study about what do you want? And really looking into what do you want? And so sexually paying attention to what do I want?
How
Not
do
what,
you recommend we start with that?
uh, yeah, instead of like, here, I'll take what's given and see if it works for me.
Yeah. Or like, I guess I'll do what he wants and, mine will be secondary. Or, like, how do we start
Yeah.
figuring out what we want in a culture where we're often told that our needs don't matter or our wants don't matter? They're excessive.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I love noticing, like just saying the phrase, this is okay. So this is for me. Oh, this is for me. Yeah, yeah. This is for me. So, and dropping into that. Okay, this is for me. I'm about to receive. So you can take that, what do I want, and really meditate on it, play with it. Maybe it is just somebody says, hey, oh, we're going to go out tonight. What do you want to do? Hey, Asteria, what do you want to do? Oh, and then you pause
And
and
then
like, what do I
oh,
want to
what
do?
do I want to do?
Wow.
Yeah.
When that question comes up, what do I want? And really taking like, oh, this is for me. So what I want is I want to see Wicked because I feel like I want to see Wicked. And then, but this is for me and I want to do something with you too. Does that work for you?
Yeah. Do you want to see Wicked with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe the person doesn't want to, but you've really tuned into what you want. You've honored it. You paid attention to it. You've then expressed it. That's already something. Whether or not that actually happens, sometimes it's okay because maybe
Yeah.
you're going to be wicked by yourself, or maybe you're going to find somebody else who wants to see it.
Yeah. But you are thinking about what you want in more everyday situations. Not that pleasure shouldn't be every day, but like
Yeah.
you're starting with what you want in general
Yeah.
to
And
get
then,
connected to what you want pleasure wise.
yeah. Yeah. And then, so we do this thing. So there's 4 quadrants of touch in the
Okay?
wheel of sense, and you have giving and receiving. So it could be anything, but let's say we really want to drop into what kind of touch do I want to receive? It's giving and receiving. The person giving is doing the action, but who it's for is who's receiving. This is for me. So you really sit in this quadrant of receiving. This is for me. You're going to do something to me, and it's not for you, it's for me. And you pause with that. You also could work on the other quadrant, which is taking and allowing. So, okay, I'm going to take pleasure. I'm going to do something to you. I'm going to touch you. If we're going to talk about touch, I'm going to touch you in some kind of way. But it's actually, it might feel good to you, but it's actually for me. I really want to run my hand through your hair. And it might feel good to you, but it's for me because I want to feel your hair. So we do this thing that's called the 3-minute game.
Okay.
And you specifically do it with clothing on, no genital touch, and not explicitly sexual. Because you want to take the charge out of it. You want to like step back a bit.
Okay.
If we charge right into the sexual thing, there's like so much going on and it's like that. So if you do these practices outside of the sexual realm, you have more space to really tune in and drop into what do I want? And what are my limits? What are my boundaries? And you're in all the quadrants. So like in that take, you're like, oh, do I want you to touch my hair? Yeah. Okay, you can touch my hair, but like don't pull at the roots and don't use your nails in my scalp. And yeah, you can do that. And really paying attention to what's okay. So then it is wild. Like it just and you say it's not explicitly sexual, but like, I could have somebody please look at me, keep contact with my eyes, stay present with me and and take your hand and put it on my throat and just gently hold my throat. Now, that's not explicitly sexual. If I drop in with practice, if I really drop into what do I want, and it could be, will you pin down my 2 arms, and that could be enough. Whatever, if I'm in, I really align with what I want, I could it could become very sensual to the point of it being sexual. But you're gonna like just not overly move into that sexual charge. But you will really drop into just like more aligned with what you want. And it's going to be hotter and more exciting.
Yeah.
Also could make us feel whatever. As we do.
You mentioned the 3-minute game. What is it?
Yeah. So yeah. Thanks for
there.
So the 3-minute game is that Betty Martin teaches it. She got it from somebody else who I can't follow right now, but it's you, and she's so sweet. She has like on her website, she has a lot of pamphlets. So there is a pamphlet about the 3-minute game and how to do it. So you could work with either of those quadrants. You could say, okay, so we're going to play the 3-minute game. So for 3 minutes, you're going to say, as Esther's going to say to me, how do you want me to touch you? So how does Marisa want to be touched? And I'm going to say, oh, okay. And I'm going to pause. I'm going to tune in. And okay, I want you to hold my shoulders and just stay present with me or whatever it is. I'm going to drop in. So then you do that for 3 minutes. You can do it for that 3 minutes that you just keep doing the same thing. You also could open up that, like, you can shift it and you have a timer. Also, at some point, the giver would say, how could this be? Is it the right amount of pressure? How could this be even better? Is a nice question. And I'll then tune in and say, oh, can you do it a little bit with a little more pressure? Yeah, that's it. And then the timer goes off and I say, thank you. And you say, you're welcome. And then we switch. And it's something you can do with friends. You definitely could do it with partners. I used to do it with my daughter when she was younger.
Oh.
Minute game. Yeah. And then you can also do it from the take and allow, which is also really powerful because especially for women and trans people, like we may not inhabit that quadrant so easily. And a lot of us even don't like recognize, like I'm touching you. Sometimes we'll do like I'm touching you and it's for you, but actually it's for me.
Yeah.
I'll see that even like a lot of times with clients with oral sex, like they think like we think like this is what everybody wants, and like no, actually you're doing it for you. What I actually want is something different. So really identifying taking, like I'm going to do something to you and it's for me. And that's may I,
AI.
yeah. And you
That's a
do
good
the
question.
3-minute game.
And the 3 minutes and the close on take some pressure out of it,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just slows it down, gives us a chance to really drop into that. What do I want to sense ourselves and deepen into it?
Yeah.
So this is a huge work, sharing about pleasure. And it is about pleasure, having better sex. Like when Betty Martin talks about it, she says, yeah, when I created this wheel of consent and this work so that people could have better sex. And then also it is about all of life. It ends up like, oh, I don't receive in sex and I don't receive in my life. Like I don't receive, I'm always giving. And you're looking at that, it comes up in all of your life. So there is also just like having a life that is really built with with pleasure in mind as a motivation.
Yeah. With your own pleasure in mind, also. Like,
Yeah.
it's a little unsaid and a little obvious, but also I think there's a lot of people who live for other people's pleasure, and a lot of women, people of minority, marginalized identities, like a lot of times living for other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a whole thing in that we talk about that it's like really trying to tune into direct pleasure instead of the other one is indirect pleasure. What do you want? Oh, well, what do you want? Like, I'll be happy if you get what you want. That'll make me happy. Instead of like, oh no, what? No, let me know how to drop into direct pleasure. Let me know how to tune into what I want. And then I could totally have pleasure by you having pleasure, but I don't want to solely live there. I want
Yes.
to have direct pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, with that discussion of direct pleasure, I think that's an excellent thing to promote. And yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
I appreciate it. Do you feel complete here? Do you want to have anything else you want to say?
Oh, I like this. What am I promoting? It's interesting. I just have to say, like, there was this like little piece of me that's like, what are you promoting? That went to like a business thing. Like, what am I promoting? Like, what am I offering? Sort of thing. Like, instead of what am I promoting in the world? Oh,
Yeah.
I am promoting pleasure and direct pleasure and health. And then the last piece would be, and I didn't say that in my identity, is that I am intermittently disabled,
Mm.
that I live with several autoimmune, and sometimes I really have trouble walking. So just the last is like working on that disability piece of letting go of perfection in our bodies and finding pleasure in, disabled and bodies in pain, and promoting well-being in its picture for the body that is in front of me, you know, and enjoying this body with whatever pain and
Mhm.
discomfort and disability it's having. So also that piece I'm very much promoting in my life.
Being real about the body you've got, but also providing it with positive, pleasurable interactions.
Yeah. And movement that suits it,
Hmm.
and air that suits it, and not really shifting the model of what kind of movement is right for your body, and finding movement that is right. Because I do think movement is medicine, and I really
Yeah,
love movement as medicine, but it looks different in everybody.
it does. And there's, yeah. like running could be great for lots of people, but then there's others of us with like hypermobility, and running is too high impact for the joints. And then there's, yeah, so many examples of
Yeah,
how movement is different for everyone.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. And there I feel complete.
Okay. I thought about asking you about the disability piece earlier, but you didn't mention it as one of
I
your
know.
identities. And I don't want to make you lead with something that you didn't lead with, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's funny that I didn't. And sometimes like I am intermittent, like it comes and goes, and sometimes it's very extreme, and sometimes I feel perfectly fine. I don't feel perfectly fine right now. For whatever reason, it wasn't like in the forefront, but it often is
Mhm,
in
mhm.
the forefront.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're so
And
welcome.
I'm really glad you were here to talk about the future with us. And we'll hear from you soon.
Yeah, and I'm motivated to talk about the future, even if I'm resistant to it at the same time. I'm definitely here for it. I'm not going away. Yay for the future.
Yeah, we're not going away.
Thanks for tuning in to Asteria's Convos. You can find the links for this episode in the episode description. You can find me, Asteria Elsie, on TikTok, Instagram, and threads as at asteria.elsie, and on Blue Sky as at asteria.elsie. Spell it Asteria dot ELZEA. Please leave a review on your favorite podcast hosting service. That's the absolute best way for our community to grow. Remember, your actions create the future. All my love, Asteria Elsie.